We technically are at quorum.
Oh,
So
we
if
are.
you would like, we could get started.
Let's do it.
I think we should. And bear with me. It's my first one.
You're gonna
Officially.
do great.
So we do have a quorum, so we can begin the meeting. And I will start off with, I would like to acknowledge the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute people on which we are meeting today. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from December's meeting? And are there any questions? Do we have a motion to
I
pass?
will make a
the
motion
minutes?
to approve minutes.
Commissioner Hand has made a motion to pass the minutes. From December, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great. And Commissioner Thomason has seconded the motion to pass the minutes from December. Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
CK right here.
Commissioner Willetts, you're welcome to
Oh, wow.
take a seat. Sorry.
And just for voice votes, typically it would be all those in favor allow the response, and then all those opposed. And typically we make the record of giving none, the motion passes.
All right. I think we'll just dive right into the director's update.
Fantastic. I would love to start with a couple of key announcements. Do you want me to take the? Yes. I think. Hold a second, sorry. Oh my God, I
Got an internship with Preservation Hill when I was there. I adored her. She's so
Me
nice.
too.
Yeah. Is she back? No, okay.
She's still in London.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Yeah, but she came back for a little, for like a short visit.
Did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I wasn't able to.
Her mom needed her.
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's a huge.
She didn't need it, but I did.
Oh, that's great. Sorry, I missed seeing her. That's awesome. Nice to meet you.
Should we have that? Well, you know what, why don't you not stress for a second and let's do some introductions while you're
That's
working on that. So we have some key changes tonight that are really exciting, and I think I'll just start by welcoming our newest city council liaison,
Very
Councilwoman Lucy Willis.
I won the lottery. I'm so happy to be on the.
So we're super excited to have
Very
you as
happy.
well, and I think I also have a connection with Councilwoman Willis's daughter who me for a long time, was in my classes and stuff, so yeah, and it's wonderful to know that you have that as well. So, and of course, Councilwoman Willis just recently got reelected and re-sworn in January, representing District 5, if I'm not mistaken.
Number
Yeah, I
one.
knew that. I have not figured them out yet, or I haven't memorized them yet, obviously.
Okay.
So we're really excited to have
I'm
you.
so happy to be here.
And I have appreciated over the last 4 years, or I guess it's only been a couple years actually, sorry.
It felt like COVID was only 2 years.
The interest that you've shown in our department and the great questions that you ask when we come to present to you. So we're thrilled to have you on the commission. Thank you for your service to us.
I'm so happy to be here. I have had such a positive experience with our project in West Boise. And I think these are the things that make cities meaningful and interesting. And people go all over the world to see arts and history. And I think we have an incredible history here we can share. So I think it's actually an economic development issue as well. So I'm a history nerd, but I also think that this is something that people recognize as a unique part of a city that makes it feel different. So I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. So I thought it would make sense to have the commissioners introduce themselves
super,
to
super.
you. So that you know who everybody is. And we are undergoing a couple of transitions right now, which I'll talk about in my director's update, but why don't we? Is it okay? Yes, Sarah, please, Gabby.
Yes. I'm Gabby Thomason. My background is in history with my education, and then I've done some work with the museum and historical society, and then with Preservation Idaho, of course. And I'm currently working with a nonprofit called One Refugee, and we support college students with a refugee background as they're navigating higher education, and just trying to plug them in to more opportunities. So
Hello, I'm Kadrin and I'm the student commissioner in here. I'm a senior in Timberline High School. I don't really have any background like but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So true. Did you help with our West Boise judging?
Yeah.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Don't sell yourself short.
And I am Chris Clegg, the new chair. Tonight is my first meeting leading. During the day, I work at HP. I manage a benefit area for the employees, but I'm also really helping out with a lot of nonprofits with printing in Boise. And I've been with the Arts and History Advisory Team, I believe, for 6 years. And I've been on commission for
So do you work at the HP campus? Yes. Right by my house. Come for lunch. Perfect.
I'm Lucy,
Hi,
I'm
John.
John, and I am ex-chair of the commission, and I'm actually transitioning out. This was my last year. I'm leaving early, so anyways, I'm a former HPer, so
You got me.
I'm your neighbor, and I didn't vote for you, but not because I, I mean,
Oh, you could go.
just because I didn't get to.
Right, okay.
Just because I didn't. Sorry. We live in one of those places where she was unopposed. in
Yeah,
our
so your
area,
district.
And therefore, there was no opportunity to do that.
So you're one of my neighbors who works for HP that measures your lawn. Are you an engineer?
No.
Okay, because I always joke that people in my neighborhood, they work for HP and their lawns are like the Garden of Eden. Because they are so precise.
Yeah.
It's very embarrassing for us, but
Still marketing.
there you go.
Got nothing.
Nice to meet you.
Amanda Ashley?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Amanda Ashley. It's really great to meet you. I actually know your daughter very well also, who I adore. I'm a professor of urban studies and community development at Boise State University. And then I'm also the director of the School of the Arts, which is in the College of Arts and Sciences here at Boise State. And so welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here today.
Thank you. And also, I know that you and Dr. Stevens were really accelerants for her, and it made such a difference in her college career with people, especially professional women, taking an interest in her and helping her guide with things that she was interested in but didn't know that she could get a job. And that's really unique. Yes. So thank you.
Love that.
Thank you. She's employed. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for those really kind words. I appreciate them.
Is anybody else online? Is Melissa here yet?
It doesn't look like she
No.
is.
I'm here, guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, great.
Okay.
Oh my
We can
gosh.
hear you. Just
Not maybe
Zoom?
see you.
Zoom hates me. Let's just throw it out there. Zoom
There you are.
threw me through some Zoomies.
Okay.
So this is Melissa Thom. I'm in my third year, I think. I'm helping Chris out take the leadership this year. So I'm vice chair, assistant to the chair, assistant to the regional chair, something like that. And by day, I'm the marketing leader at Idaho Power.
And then I thought it might be useful for you just briefly, since we have so many of our staff in the room, if they just briefly went around and shared their titles and their names with you and go from there. Yeah. So Jennifer, do you want to start?
Jennifer Weimar, Communications Manager.
I oversee Edison History's communications portfolio. I also liaise with the Office of Community Engagement.
And Jennifer spent a long time in the cold waiting for people to comment, so thank you. It's a very short time.
Was
so
it with
it's very cool.
Stephanie? Yes, and you, someone brought us cookies. I can't remember. Like,
It wasn't me, I
but it was a cool morning. Yes, but thank you for showing up. Really appreciate it.
I'm Kristen Hill. I'm the Cultural Sites Program Manager. We met at the Irma Hayman House.
Yes.
A long time ago, yes, but good to see you again. Yeah, so Kristen runs the Irma Hayman House and the James Castle House, just to give you.
Lucky.
I'm Maureen. I'm the history programs manager, working on exhibits, oral histories, our 3D collection of artifacts.
So I'm gonna show a little naivete, but I was walking around, I guess it was Tuesday, and I saw all the displays about the different history. Have those been there forever?
Where exactly?
Just right around the corner from.
From the chambers, you mean?
Yeah,
Right here.
the chambers.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's one of our display cases, and we're gonna be swapping it out here again.
Yeah, it was really remarkable, and I wish I could remember the woman's name, but I did not realize, well, her last name is Reed. I did not realize that was in Idaho.
I know. But yeah, that's a really cool story for sure.
Yeah, we usually are have brief breaks and things go long, so it's like you run to the bathroom,
right.
but we had a little bit more time and.
Well, thank you for looking at it.
It was
That's
really
great.
lovely.
Yeah, send people that way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, Public Art Program Manager.
Yes, she's been wonderful with our, thank you, Stephanie. I'm just very excited about our park, so thank you.
Danielle Grandel, I'm the city archivist.
That's a lucky job too.
You know, we have cool.
Yeah. You've got fun jobs.
Yeah. I'm Tyler
Yeah.
Powers. I'm a deputy city attorney, but this is my last meeting. My last day is on Friday. So
That was coming, guys. I guess.
Are you moving out of state or are you just changing?
I have a couple of things that I'm kind of deciding between right now. So it's a good change for me, but I don't really have anything to discuss.
You are an attorney. Like it's okay. Hi, privilege. Nice to meet you.
I'm Logan Weiss. I'm also a deputy city attorney. I am taking over Tyler's role with arts and history. So, yeah, super excited.
Nice to meet you.
Rolagio, Cultural Assets Project Coordinator. And this is not affiliated.
And maybe you just what that means in our next, actually you first, and then maybe tell Commissioner Willits or Councilwoman Willits, yeah, what that means exactly.
Yes, I'm Jamil Shirley, and I'm the Cultural Assets Program Manager. And in a nutshell, Elagio and I manage the collection of art once it's come into the city. So we do all of the maintenance, collections management, managing contractors, and overview of collection.
So do you get to decide which pieces are displayed?
We do own also Stephanie, the public art team, Diana on that too.
Yeah.
But we do all the like hanging of art, the new art rails that you see on the third floor and down in the lobby area. Those are sort of a new installation. And we wear a lot of hats.
Thank you.
And sort of in the museum world, we would kind of fulfill about like 4 or 5 different departments.
Yeah.
We are glad you're here.
True, true.
Thank you.
Lillian Whitehill, Executive Assistant.
Hello, hello.
He does everything for all of us.
That's air traffic control right there.
I'm Tilly Bub, and I've been doing primarily strategic planning internally, and then you're going to hear all about other things I do shortly.
I'm very happy to hear. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stevens. That's really lovely. My kid calls you, so it's not what.
Not Dr. Stevens. Thank you, thank you, Joey. Well, we'll go ahead and get started, with director's update. I just want to I'm gonna go quickly through these slides. There's more slides than hopefully I will I'll go through them quickly for the number of slides we have. Really pleased to report that we did hire a new coordinator at the James Castle House. She started on Monday. Her name is Monica Galvan. And she has kicked off by welcoming our new resident that came today by the name of Ellen Mansfield, thank you. So that's really exciting. She's local. She has a strong background in the art community and also speaks fluent Spanish and went through the Conservation Voters of Idaho that program. Fellowship program, yeah. So we're really excited to have her on board. We have had 49 applicants for the airport coordinator position, which is amazing. We have narrowed it down. We've started interviews, even though the position stays open until the 18th. And we already have zeroed in on some really great candidates. So we're pretty excited about that. And then the mayor's office is sponsoring 2 internships this summer for us. And as we kick off our tour season / promotion / improvement / increase, this is really going to help with that. As we sort of begin to look forward, some of the things I'll be talking about in a minute, we're hoping that having 2 paid interns that can get an educational experience, but also help us sort of build capacity a little bit this summer, that this will be a good pilot for us. So we're excited about that. I just wanted to give a shout out to our team again. As you know, we've been working really hard to partner externally. And last weekend, our history programs manager, Maureen, and our public programs manager, Emily, both attended the Lunar New Year event at the State Museum. And this is important because of the oral history program that we've been working on with the Chinese community. And so it was great to have our face there, have our table there, and do that work. They also volunteered as art judges for the kids and got to present one of the awards. So that was exciting. I realize that this might be something that the commission wants to talk more deeply about, and I'm open to doing that. But I wanted to let everybody know on the commission that we have been undergoing as a team working on a 5-year internal strategic plan. That plan is in complete form as a draft, meaning it's currently undergoing review with the mayor's office. It has been about I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 month process, and has been, I've been working with all the different divisions in the department to make sure that we're all sort of on the same page as each of them is building out their divisional goals for this year, but also in the next 3 to 5 years. So that draft is in your commission packet. It is sort of a living document, meaning A, like I said, it's under review by the mayor's office, but B, some of the timelines are shifting depending on basic things that happen on an ongoing daily basis. So just sort of keep you aware of that. I'll pause for a second I know this is sort of a big thing, and I assume many of you at least glanced over it. Happy to answer any sort of big picture questions if you have them at this time.
I don't have any right now. I did briefly glance through it, but I wanted to dive into it.
I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody ends up having the time to really dive deep into it. But as you know, because I've talked about it on several occasions, our goal is really to make the work that we do very predictable in the community so that the community knows what to expect from us. And that is part of the brand building and sort of advertising marketing plan that Jennifer Weibar, our marketing person, is also working on. So making our programs predictable is sort of the through line of what you'll see in that document. And so I'm happy again to discuss any of it, all of it, either on a personal level or at this level. So Melissa or Amanda, do you have any questions?
I don't have questions. I was just going to say thank you for clarifying that it was 5-year. I missed that at some point, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh boy, this is a lot. So I'm glad you have, the out years um, identified. It all looks like really incredible, amazing work that I think will be really interesting to you all to do and for us to watch and support you through. I could definitely feel that throughput of predictable programming. It looks like you identified a lot of new opportunity for different members of the community groups, working more with the universities. So I saw a lot of really positive things there. And we're here to support you because that's a lot of work.
Yes, I had to continue to tell the staff over and over and over, it's 5 years. For exactly the reason. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just important that we're all working toward the same North Star. And they've been awesome. And I think some of the stuff is already starting to happen. So I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for the services that we're going to provide the community. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Okay. So I wanted to briefly explain the public programming that we're doing, the professional development that we're doing, and also revenue generation, because that might come as a bit of a out of left field to you. So in the strategic plan, one of the things you saw was the fact that we're moving toward a revenue generation model in part. In conversations with the mayor's office, and also having been through now one budget process, and about to embark on the second one, we are recognizing that a lot of the work that our department does is the kind of work in our peer cities and throughout the country, honestly, that cities that are similar to us but aren't officially our peer cities are charging for many of the kinds of things that we offer. And so as we think together about, the staff and I think together about how we want to expand the department and the services we want to offer, we recognize that we cannot continue to rely solely on general fund dollars to do that work. And so it's important to recognize, I think there's when you work in the government world, and you come from nonprofit, thinking about revenue automatically means we're trying to make a profit. And I just want to clarify for the commission, that is of course not what we're doing, right? We're not aiming to do anything that's not mission driven. Every single program that we're going to be charging for is going to be mission driven. And we are working, this is not something that happens overnight. It's a process that's going to take a couple of years because of the operational way that the city runs. There's certain things we have to do during the budget process, lines we have to put in so that we can make the kind of charges we want to make. But in 5 years, we're hoping that by determining what we can and want to charge for, we can then reinvest in the department and offer more services to the community. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that I have found as I've been talking to my peers throughout the city is that I'll use Parks and Rec as a great example. They presented to City Council and the mayor about 9 years ago a lengthy document that was their philosophy on how they're going to charge fees for the programs that they offer. And that is the same kind of thing we are working on internally as well, is coming up with a philosophy. So for instance, one of the things that Parks does in their philosophy that council approved and is still a guiding document is the services that they offer to the senior community, for instance, is at basically no cost to them, meaning it is in fact funded either by the revenue they get from other things like sports, for instance, tennis lessons, golf lessons. Those are the kind of things that they charge for, that they actually make money off of, and then can turn those dollars into serving the senior community in that particular case at a free or low cost level that is basically subsidized by the general fund and by those revenues. So we are working on a similar philosophy statement so that as we begin to think about the kinds of things we can and want to charge for, we have a guiding document that is bought into and devised by our staff, and then of course by our leadership. So stay tuned on that, but it is going to be the way that the department grows, so that we can, for instance, get a full-time staff person to join the existing full-time staff people at the Castle House and the Haven House. right now, running those two facilities with one full-time staff person just is not feasible. And asking for additional FTEs is not necessarily the way we're going to actually staff up from the general fund. So we're trying to be creative internally, so that we can expand in the ways that will serve the community more, and that meet the needs of our elected leadership and what they've asked us to do. So I know that's a lot to like take in all at once because it's a total pivot from the way things have been done in the past. But since I've basically arrived here at City Hall, it's been made clear to me that if we're going to grow, that's the way we're going to grow. And so we're beginning to start putting things in place that will allow us to do that. So we will definitely be wanting commission input on those things as time goes on. I wanted to sort of lay the groundwork and how do you guys know that that's something that we're working on. So I basically said everything on that slide without going by the bullet point, but those are the things. If you know, I'm not going to go through the bullets because I just said everything I needed to say. So any questions? Dr. Ashley.
No, thanks, Jen, for that. You know, I'm curious, like from like Parks perspective, when they started to do the revenue generating model, did their and did their general fund allocations that they get go down? And so, or did those stay steady?
So I can't actually specifically speak to that, but in terms of the way budgeting is done at the city, we will not be dipping into our general fund dollars and pulling them out to support the programs that we're talking about to create revenue, which would result in what you're talking about. So we are working closely with our budget office to make sure that everything we're doing is additive, as opposed to the revenue coming in and replacing general fund dollars, which is what you're concerned about. Yeah. So we are being really careful to make sure that the way that we are budgeting with city council and mayor's support will not do that.
Thank you.
Back to you. Ask a question.
Yes, you're the chair, so
Yes.
so
That's a great question, Dr. Ashley. Sorry, I can't help it. What I hear Dr. Stevens saying is that this is not to supplant, this is to enhance. And I would say from a city council perspective, this is something that we're very used to. And I think the community is really used to, because they would rather have more than keep things less. And our programs at Park and Rec are extremely popular. Like if any of you have tried to get into the kids clubs, impossible. Like, so there's a demand. I think, you know, there's obviously a market value there, but I don't think you're going to get pushback on this at all. I think this is just what we know needs to happen, and this is what happens in the economy all the time.
Yeah. And again, because we're really focused on being mission driven, certain things will remain free and or low cost. And we are thinking about all those things. And again, this is not going to happen overnight. This is a long game. But we know that in 3 to 5 years, to get where we want to go program wise, we're going to have to adopt. So.
Have we also talked to, and I haven't talked to her for a while, Terry Dilling, the Arts and History Foundation, to see if maybe that could be some revenue generation?
So in conversations with Kristen Hill, our Cultural Sites Program Manager, most of probably what we're going to end up doing with the foundation is fundraising for special projects, as opposed to revenue generation that can be pumped back into programming and staff, if that makes sense. So talking with them about the possibility of big dollar fundraising for preserving the trailer at the James Castle House and making some changes there. So that's probably most likely how we will work the foundation. Yeah, does that answer it?
It does.
Okay. So speaking of grants, I just wanted to let the commission know that we applied for 2 grants this month. I completed a National Trust for Historic Preservation grant application. They have a fund called the African American Cultural Heritage Fund, and we applied for $100,000 capacity building fund. That would permit us to have some bridge dollars between now and the time we have the revenue generation plan built, to staff a second person there to really get our programming off the ground and foundational. So we're, I've got my fingers crossed. They're not easy to get, but we'll try. And then, of course, we applied for the Idaho Commission on the Arts grant, which we have been getting for many years now. So I wanted to give you an update on you. So we did have the applications open to fill the vacancies on the commission. And we provided recommendations to the mayor, and as I understand it, she is conducting short interviews sometime next week or so to fill the commission. As our John Hand told us a few minutes ago, he has opted to step down from the commission, and so we're going to do something for him at the end of our commission meeting tonight. But we will be filling 2 spots, both JJ's and John's as well. We will have a special opening for the student spot when Catherine's term is over. So we didn't have any applicants that had filled for the student position, and so when Catherine's term is up, we will do a separate call for applicants. I wanted to follow up with the commission on the reimagining of the commission, and this actually was at the initiative of Commissioner Hand. He had suggested with Commissioner Clegg that we talk about restarting the advisory, the Arts and History Advisory, what was it called? The AHAT, Arts and History Advisory Team. Yes. And out of that conversation and a couple of meetings that we had, we have sort of gone back to the drawing board to talk about the commission itself and looked back at the ordinance that actually governs your body. And this is actually something that's happening throughout. We're not the only department to be looking at that right now. So Public Works recently underwent a big change with its commission as well. In part also because the commissioners themselves are seeing how they could be of better service, have more impact in the volunteer work that they're doing. And so with that goal in mind, we are going to be starting something similar with the commission that you all serve on. And we're going to, of course, include you in that conversation, right? We want to have your input on the best ways to change the commission, to make sure that you understand what your role is, and to set expectations more clearly. So in the next coming months, I will be contacting each of you for basically one-on-one or two-on-one interviews to get that input from you. And essentially, we'll be eventually going toward changing the ordinance to reflect the decision that we all make together on what the commission is going to look like. Right now, basically through historical examination, we have discovered that the ordinance that rules this commission now, or that governs this commission now, is really kind of a holdover from 1978, from when there was no arts and history department, there was no professional staff. And so we really want to bring it up to modern standards, and recognizing that we have an 18-person staff now, and different divisions and facilities that we manage and that sort of thing. So this is going to be a project that's going to go on probably throughout the rest of this calendar year. It takes a while to do this kind of thing. And we'll be, of course, working with the mayor's office as well to make sure that that the solutions that we come to are supported by mayor and city council. Any questions there?
Thank you for doing that, because I think it's important.
Well, and I'm excited to have it in, a little more detail in writing. Here are the guidelines. How can we have an impact? How can we help and not overburden the department? I think that's the biggest.
I mean, we want your service to feel meaningful to you. And that is important to every person on the staff. We've already had one staff meeting about it, and that's really important. And so we want to make sure that we have your buy-in and we get your input on the changes that we make, and you will be absolutely part of the entire process. So. And I guess, is that it? Okay, so that's it. So with that, I will hand it over. I'm gonna take everything in your slides.
All right, the next one will be the cultural plan update with Tilly.
Thank you. Sorry, one quick second. Make sure this is actually shared.
And just to ask, is it okay to use first names or should I? Okay.
Yeah.
I prefer first name.
Thanks, Melissa.
You're welcome. I'm definitely the most formal person on this whole committee.
Thank you, Jennifer and Commission, for allowing me to present to you today. I'm going to talk about the City of Boise's cultural, and we're going to talk about the potential of it also being creative industries master plan for 2025-2030. I'm going to give you a little, figure out how to move this forward. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little background first to give you a whole picture of this plan. We are working from our current mission, vision, and values. So we really wanted to ground the work that we're doing in those three things. So our mission is cultivating a distinct sense of place that reflects Boise's rich path, diverse community, and unique natural setting. Our vision is that we're a leading cultural agency recognized for fostering, and I can't see some of those words, a sense of belonging through accessible and place-based arts and history. And then our values are our operations empower and serve Boise residents, and we create opportunities that nurture and sustain Boise's past and its creative economy. So I think in all of those things, you can really see how that is about our place. And we want to make sure that our cultural plan is contemporary with that vision. We did our very first City of Boise Cultural Master Plan. Dr. Ashley actually worked on that plan with us, so thank you for that. In 2017, we developed 5 primary goals. Those goals encapsulated the work that we do as a department, but it also looked externally in terms of what we do in the city. Our first one was developing cultural policy. Our second one is enhancing and preserving neighborhoods. The third is to maintain and develop cultural assets. The fourth is fostering organizations and partnerships. And the last is expanding cultural resources for individuals. So what we're trying to do with those is really encapsulate the type of work that we do in the department in terms of addressing policy, making sure that our work is citywide, not just downtown, focusing on our assets, the public art collection, but also cultural sites program. Our important assets in the history and archive are also part of our cultural assets, as was reflected in our rewrite of our policy this last year. And then lastly, looking at how we're working with both organizations, both for-profit and nonprofit, and then individual artists, historians, and cultural workers. So in reflection, we've done a lot since 2017. Some highlights of things that we've accomplished since this time: the opening of the James Castle House and Irma Heyman House have happened in that time. We created the Boise Arts and History Foundation to have some more flexibility for fundraising options. We've had some important historical milestones, such as the Greenbelt's anniversary and the suffrages anniversary, 100-year anniversary. We've collected hundreds of oral histories. We've added to our archive collection. Our grant program is up to $150,000. We have had multiple public art projects that have been completed and conserved and maintained. Our percent for ordinance this last year was broadened so that we can purchase and support assets and programs for our whole department, not only our public art program. So it aligns it better with the work that we do as a department. We've completed a public works and a Boise Airport arts master plan that lay the groundwork for the work that the staff and the public art department are doing. Those have been critical extensions of this cultural plan. We've added additional arts and history positions. Our staff has grown since this time. Our communications team has also grown, and the work that we do to promote education has also increased. And then lastly, there's a lot that's going on in the community that we're not doing directly, but that we're helping to support, such as the Tree Fort Music Hall and the Shrine Social Club. Those are really focused on creating a better music scene overall, but also doing things like making accessible places for underage people to go hear music. So this is only a small list but they're big things of what we've accomplished in a fairly short amount of time. And we really feel that part of that is by identifying what's important to us so that we can have a clear vision of where we want to go. And we have clear milestones for what we can work on. But Boise's changed a lot since 2017. There's been a global pandemic. We've had a shutdown that's disrupted events, programs. A lot of the people that we serve were really affected by that. There's also been a steady population increase in Boise and the metropolitan area. This graph that I have here shows you that population increase. So there's a lot of people who are moving here, and how do we reach them? What are they doing? How might we connect with them in meaningful ways? We have a new mayor and city council. We have new department leadership. We've had an 85% turnover in the Department of Arts and History since 2017. So we have an almost entirely new team. We have new creative venues. We have an increased film and music industry activity. We have new artists that are in our community. So this really drives home the important point that we identified in 2017, that we needed to update the plan in 5 years. And here 5 years later, we strongly agree with our former selves. So before we start the planning, I really wanted to talk to you about the plan scope and conversation. Cultural organizations and individuals have really been the kind of the bread and butter of what arts commissions have worked with over the last many years. So that's nonprofit organizations and people who are working within those organizations, visual art, dance, theater, opera, the traditional organizations. The creative industries in the last 20 years have also really come into more focus. I'm doing my dissertation research right now with Dr. Ashley, focusing on the importance of the film industry, the music industry, people who are working in creative industries, and also how artists go back and forth between them. Artists might work in a nonprofit, but they also will go out and they might work at the Philharmonic during the day and a bar at night. So there's less strict lines between these. But before, and I want to note that in the 2017 plan, we did not really address the creative industry squarely. However, there was a study at the end that Dr. Ashley did that addressed individuals in the creative world. And that's probably as close as we got to talking about creative workers. And I'm going to come back to this as a conversation with the commission at the end, because to include this in the plan scope of conversation, to talk about economic development and some other things is a real shift. And that shift is not a decision that I can make. That shift really has to come from leadership. And so I want to talk about what that means and what that might look like. The purpose of a master plan is to really create a strategic framework for the assessment, the development, and the promotion of cultural and potential creative industries. It's really an inward-facing document for us, but not only us. It's also, we partner with several departments, such as the airport and public works. So it's a document that we share with them so that they have an understanding of the larger scope of the work that we do. It's also outward-facing. Our communications team has it on our website. We share the document as a digital document as well as a physical document to help them align and understand with what we're doing, so that we can, so we may not always be doing the cultural work. Our partners that are out in the community might be furthering the work that we identify as important. And what we can do as a city is identify the big picture so that we can help all of us kind of move towards that big picture together. So some of the actions in a planning process, we need to really assess our current conditions and do some baselining about what our current community looks like. We need to identify cultural infrastructure needs and opportunities by talking to our groups and individuals. We want to identify how might we spur cultural and creative industry development and economic activity. We want to really engage in the community and give them a voice in the process so it isn't just driven by the staff. We want to create more equitable opportunities to participate in planning and identify audiences that might not feel comfortable coming to City Hall. How might we go to them to ask questions? We're also looking at a lot of the things that Jennifer talked about in terms of lifelong education, learning, education, engagement in the arts. How do we do that for existing new residents and visitors? We're looking at integral cultural and creative industry concerns and how those might fit into urban planning issues, cultural space development, music venues, film venues. How do we make sure that we're talking to our planning department about some of those issues, and the new zoning code really addresses some of these issues. We're trying to foster partnerships between our traditional cultural organizations, but also other government agencies. We've had a very successful partnership with traffic boxes, Ada County Highway District, and other departmental agencies, Capital City Development Corporation. So how do we continue those and work with others that we haven't maybe worked with before? How do we work better with the philanthropic community, private businesses, other community groups? And then we want to establish some mechanisms for how do we evaluate our success? How do we monitor the initiatives that we're working on so that in 5 years, when I'm well retired, someone else can look at it and identify how we've been successful or what else do we need to do? So some of the stakeholders we need to involve are internal City of Boise departments, in particular, our community engagement team, library, parks and recreation, planning and development services. This is actually a really different planning process than it was when we did it in 2017. It was very organic, shall we say. I didn't have to get approval from community engagement to go forward and talk to the public, but we're in a very different environment right now. And the other thing is we have a really great teams to help us with these things. We also have public partner agencies to talk to, like Capital City Development Corporation, Greater Boise Auditorium District, the Highway District, Ada County. So those could be one-on-one interviews with leaders. They could be focus groups. They could be surveys. There's a lot of different ways that we can talk to these groups. We want to hear from the particular constituents, like the dance community, the theater community, the literary, visual arts. What do they need? Do they need facilities? Is it about workforce housing? But for-profit creative industries like music and film, we just recently passed our first film permit. But how could we support film activity in Boise? How do we better support Treefort Music Festival? We helped sponsor this last year the Music Policy Forum that talked about a lot of these issues. So how do we take that to the next level? And then entrepreneurial businesses that are arts-based businesses. What's in this community? How do we help them flourish? Do we need a trailhead for arts entrepreneurs? And then the last two categories, individual artists in all those disciplines, because there's a lot of individuals who don't necessarily associate with a particular group. And then the general public, whose at pleasure we serve. So what does the public love about what we've done? What do they think we need? What direction do they want to give us? So that can happen through focus groups and community discussions. Strategies for engagement, as I've touched on, we could do surveys, focus groups, one-on-one interviews, community meetings. There's lots of different ways that we can connect with our partners. We want to prioritize equity. We'd like to create a framework that can guide our planning process to make sure that we're engaging and collaborating with a very diverse range of community members. I feel that in retrospect, I didn't do this as well as I would have liked to in 2017. So I'd like to do better in this one. We've also, Jennifer and I have talked about the potential for some sidebar features that are not just to showcase what's been done in the last 5 years, but things that really identify policy successes or how we've responded to problems, indications of partnership examples, so that we have some physical examples of things that are working, but that also point to what we might do in the future and things that we want to think about. So she and I are reviewing some options, and we're going to actually bring that back to an all-staff team discussion to really talk about the potential sidebar features that might help inform this plan in meaningful ways. And those will be little mini research projects in and of themselves to research those and write those up. We'd also like to engage our GIS team to do some mapping. We want to identify the network of existing cultural venues. And again, this is not just what the city owns, it's what exists in our city. To identify the gaps of our public art collection. I've actually already been working with Doug, it's Doug's last name. Thank you. Who's a staff person at the Humanities Council, but he's a student who did a final project looking at the geographic spread of public art and helping identify the gaps of public art and traffic box locations so that we can identify underserved neighborhoods where we might target public art in the future. We'd like to identify concentrations of historic properties and where we want to potentially partner with our friends in Preservation Idaho or our Preservation Commission to focus on the historic benefits that we have that we want to share. We want to look at creative industry clusters, particularly in the innovation district that the city's talking about along River Street. Are there opportunities for us to identify where we might create incentives for creative industry, small manufacturing or other art galleries, for instance, to locate? And then look specifically at CCDC districts where we have a partner where additional investments may occur and see what CCDC is thinking about for those districts and how that might influence our future project load. Sorry, Stephanie.
Sorry, not speaking.
As I mentioned, I've been working, it's been a great pleasure to work with all of the divisions on strategic plans. Based on the goals that they've set out for themselves, we're creating in-depth 5-year strategic plans that tie to our department strategic plan that will be summarized in short in the cultural plan that will help give a little window, I think, to the public and to our leadership about what we're doing in our divisions. The planning timeline, we're projecting March through August would be data collection, doing interviews, focus groups, the mapping, strategic planning, sidebar features. We'd start working on the writing of that plan September through December, really identifying the findings from that outreach, our survey results, what kind of goals and objectives we want to do. Do we stay with the 5 that we have from our 2017 plan, or do we evolve into something else? And we're really open to what that might look like. And then in January through March of next year, providing a community review, council review, other city department review, and mayoral review for moving towards acceptance of that plan. And then implementation of that would be over the next 5 years from 2025 to 2030. Annually, we review that. That would be an iterative process. It'd be updated throughout. What we've done internally, for instance, in the 2017 plan is we've had an extensive Excel spreadsheet that I update on an annual basis. And that's some of those projects we've identified, we've let go of, some we've accomplished, some we've brought in new things that were opportunistic that didn't exist in the plan but fit in with our framework. So we anticipate a similar process so that we can really see and measure our success. So I want to pause there to see if there's any questions on the overall presentation before we get to this plan scope conversation.
So Tilly, I have just a comment that as you're looking at the groups to go to, I think the school districts, both Boise and West Ada, just think it's essential to get out into the neighborhoods and to focus on those PTA, PTO organizations at those schools, because they have a vested interest in those neighborhoods and how to drive, everything you're trying to do. So I would just make an explicit addition into the K through 12 education entities.
Thank you.
Okay. Tilly, thank you. I was just perusing the one from 2017, and there's a really helpful appendix that has some really fascinating data. Is that expected to be included?
Yes.
One thing that I thought was interesting, this is very well laid out at a glance, it's just how the vast majority of artists don't rely on their art for their income, which I think has an impact on how we get these. So
definitely, and I think that's what Dr. Ashley's study got at and why we concluded it in full in the back of the 2017 plan. And I don't know, we are in conversations with her about doing a survey for us. Do you want to address that at all, Amanda?
Well, no, because I don't know what's gonna, we've just started to talk about that, but like, I really appreciate, first of all, your comment there too, of like, the importance of actually understanding the creators, makers, and doers thing. Like a lot of times, like you'll see in arts and cultural plans that they'll talk about the organizations, which is obviously a very important component, but it tends to look at the people that are actually the creatives, right? And are actually the artists, and like the ways in which they put their career portfolio together, the ways that they work across the different sectors and organizations. And I think that there's, a real economic development piece there, that if we are losing the people that have this kind of creative power, what do we do about that, right? Because that is so central to our economic development plans for the city. So thank you for picking that out.
One more follow-up.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley Tilley, right? One of the things that I'd like a little bit more clarity on this is the creative industries, because some people may see media and they're gonna think TikTok and they're gonna think influencers and social media. So I think that needs to be thought through. I like the idea of expanding beyond what we typically traditional think about. I'm wondering, and if you might have already touched on this, and if you did, I apologize, but to the point where a lot of our folks who are working in these areas are not doing it full time, is there a way from a Chamber of Commerce perspective, from an economic development perspective, that we put within this plan venues for them to be successful, economic venues to sell?
Thank you, Councilwoman Willetts. I think identifying a need such as venues is definitely something that we can that will emerge from the conversations, and that's something that we can put forward if that comes forward from our constituents. Yeah, and to your first question regarding media and what lives in creative industries, we can look at there are different ways to identify what do we include in creative industries. Like, do we include food? Do we include?
Yes.
Yeah. So that, I think that if we decide that we want to include creative industries, that will be part of the conversation. So this isn't a one and done conversation. It will be something that we'll be looking at. What do other cities do? What do they identify? How do we frame that? And then and what's important in Boise? Like what are the maybe we go through this, and in discussion with Jennifer, we decide, yes, we want to include creative industries, but it's really going to focus primarily on these 4 areas because these are the ones that are really big in Boise, and that we might touch upon, some lightly. Yes, these other things are included, but we might not do a lot of research into that direction. I can see that as because we have limitations in terms of staff and time and resources for the work that we're doing. But even doing that will be a step in a direction that we that is further than we have gone previously. But I can say personally, as a professional, what I'm seeing in other cities is that we can't ignore that artists are working in for-profit and nonprofits, and that we've worked more in the last year than I ever have in my tenure at the city with our economic development division in the last year. They've been incredibly interested in partnering with us and recognizing the value of the work that we do. So I see positive potential outcome in doing so further.
And I think there are already organizations that are starting to do this. I had Idaho Film Society contact me yesterday to see how HP can help. And I know Rich Ramundi very well. And so he had reached out and said, what can you do? Here's our kind of a business plan synopsis. And it looks incredible. It's a win-win of how can we get film industry into Boise, which makes such a big impact, but how do we support the artists? So I think if the city can support organizations like that, it will just blow up like Tree Fort has done.
Oh, yeah. People will travel for these things. They will. But I think from my own experience, I am always shocked and surprised and ecstatic about the talent that's in the community. And I often find those at festivals, at Saturday Market, at the neighborhood festivals, because it's pretty hard to piece through that in the interwebs. And so I think anything that we can do to shine a light on that only helps the folks that live and work here.
Others have thoughts on this scope conversation?
I'll just weigh in briefly if I may, Madam Chair. I think bringing up food is a great point, because one of the questions in the initial plan, and that I think we will also be addressing in this plan, is what role does cultural tourism play in our goals? And I think the James Castle House is a great example of that, right? There's been an attempt by staff, very successful attempt, I'll say, to bring national attention to the James Castle House. And, you know, people know James Castle, he's very famous internationally. So now we have a James Beard Award winner, right, on the food scene. So if we were to focus on policies to help the food industry, does that reflect the cultural values of our community, the same way that having this incredibly talented artist, having lived his entire life and created here, most of his life created here, reflects those values? So I think those are the kinds of questions we're going to be asking: is, do we want to be known as a food city, a film city, you know, an art city? What's sort of like, what's the community telling us that they want, and what are they already seeing that we can capitalize on and build on, such as Tree Fort, right? Becoming known as a music city. So how can we help push that forward as a city and use our you know, our heft as a government agency to advance that? So,
and I also think a fusion of it all. I love what Ken does, where, you know, and they have a certain group that they sell to, but they feature an artist with the dinners. They're also now they're picking nonprofits to focus on with some of their dinners. And it's just been this organic, beautiful fusion that they've created of pulling in artists, pulling in farmers. So it would be nice to be able to do that elsewhere. You know, into the community that maybe needs that boost with the schools, because I love that, like what can be done with the schools. I know with Cynthia Mann and the Castle House, you know, those kids love that.
It might also intersect with things like workforce development, or you know, and that could tie in to other parts of what our department does. Jennifer and Emily are looking at program development that are specific to workforce development. So how might that be for individuals working in nonprofits versus individuals working in particular for-profit creative industries? And then how might that tie with economic development? But those are the kinds of questions I see potentially coming out of this expansion of our scope.
Shelley, did you do this? Did I hear that right? That you did this in 2017?
Correct. Yeah, so we started in 2015.
Yeah,
so it's a 2-year process. Okay. Why are you lucky?
You're lucky because you've done this before, and we're lucky because we have you. We're not starting from scratch.
I'm fortunate to be able to do this work. Okay.
Do we have anything else?
No, this is the last question. Okay. I really just wanted to receive direction on approving that you're comfortable with me moving forward. Amanda?
I did. I just had to put in a plug for you because everybody was talking about your awesomeness. for a second. Tilly actually has a book coming out on the creative economy and the creative industries in May. And so, like we have somebody that's like a national expert that's like in our city that knows how to really kind of scope and to do these kinds of community connections and how we think about where we want to go on the industries and occupations, while also, you know, honoring the rich traditional arts practices that we also have here. So I just wanted to put that plug in for Tilly right there, since we were talking about your awesomeness.
And my dissertation defense will be February 26th. 30th, any of you'd like to come.
That's great.
So far, the comments I've heard have been very supportive of this direction. Do I take this as a positive indication that we broaden our plan scope to include creative industries and come back to you with more specificity on what that might mean?
I think so. I'm in favor of that.
I think a huge selling point for me is the economic development piece that comes with a for-profit branch for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I will take that as your direction. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you. Thanks for the word. Yes. I can't wait to see what comes out. And that's a big job right there. All right. Well, then I invite a motion to adjourn, or do we want to do? They say. Yes. Oh, you have.
So, John, do you want to say, well, maybe we'll start. Yes, we'll start. So, John informed us, or he's indicated via this thing in my letter, I don't know, that he is stepping down from the commission. And John's been on the commission for 8 years and been an absolute rock. From the second I walked in the door, he's been an incredible peer and mentor to me, and just we have hit it off and have really formed an incredible relationship. And I know you've meant the world to the department for the last 8 years and the work that you've done. So I can't thank you enough for your service to the city, and we really hope that you will still show your face around here, because
These are public meetings.
Yes.
I regret this.
And I'll open up, maybe there might be other staff members who'd like to say a word or two, and then we'll let you.
It's been an incredible honor to serve alongside you. You have been instrumental in the success of the department across all programs. I know your heart is near and dear to history, but have shown interest and you've championed all aspects of our work. You've not only been an incredible professional, but also a wonderful colleague and friend. And I will absolutely miss you dearly. I will miss our text exchanges on occasion. And I hope we continue that friendship outside of your service to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would also like to thank you, John. You've been a great friend to the department and to all of us. So thank you for so many years of service. I miss you.
Thanks, Tilly. Yeah, I mean, Tilly and Jennifer, are we the seniors?
We are the seniors, yes.
Kristen.
Kristen?
Senior and junior.
Yeah, I think back to the before there was a commission, there used to be an arts committee and then a history committee, and I was on the history committee. And that's when we did the big birthday party in 2013, and there's been a lot of stuff that the department has had to go through. There weren't so many staff members in 2011 or 2012, and then I think all of the stuff coming out of the Great Recession, obviously COVID and the disaster that COVID was. The department is just managed beautifully, I think, through all that chaos. And a little bit of organizational chaos as well. So I think that and I think about the department and can I give away one of the things that I said? Of
course.
Okay. I don't think the department's ever been in better hands. I mean, I think it's been the team now is awesome. And so I'm so happy to see that. And love the team. I love the mix of experience plus new energy and perspective. It's pretty great. So what else? What else do I think, Chris?
Well, I will say thank you for bringing me into the fold. And you will be my plus one. Many events. How's that?
Still invited to your house.
Yes. My house.
Excellent. Well, the timing was just terrible and good at the same time. And I just felt like it was in the cards, as Kristen is familiar, that gotta go.
Gonna make us cry. I know you got with that. We did get you a few little things, and you're welcome to. There's a card in there, of course, which you don't need to read right now. But I think everybody would love to see you open this if you are not to put you on the spot or anything, but.
Oh, and I have to tell everybody, remember history. History.
What?
I always.
You like history?
Yeah.
I also need to add, I recently became aware that you may have some text messages. Yeah, I need to recover your public record.
These are just. Namaste.
Shit.
That's a record. That's a record.
You can be learned.
Yes.
You can be Tyler's last, like.
Okay, somebody didn't turn it out.
Should we adjourn?
Well,
We could adjourn the meeting right now. How's that? Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I love that. Commissioner Hand makes a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Tom. Just, that's okay. I called you lady. Commissioner Thomason seconds, and there being no further business before the commission, I would,
All those in favor?
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hearing none.
Hearing none, the motion passes.